Hey hikers, and welcome to video 2. First of all, I want to thank you for all the questions and comments after video 1. I can tell you guys put a lot of thought into the questions that were coming in, and I really appreciate it. Just a quick recap from video 1, we discussed why training is so important and how a lack of training can relate directly to injuries. My name is Lee, and I'm the owner of Trailside Fitness. I work in physical therapy and personal training, and I've hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2018. With my 20 years of backpacking experience, I want to make sure that you're ready for your next adventure. One of the things I mentioned in the first video was setting up a training mileage plan to help keep you on track as you prepare. So I've got a 4-month program that I'm going to lay out for you right now. The first month, your hikes on the weekend should be 4 to 8 miles and 0 to 1,000 feet elevation gain. Month number 2, you're going to up your mileage to 8 to 10 miles, targeting 1,500 to 2,000 feet of elevation gain. Month 3 sees another progression that moves you to 10 to 12 miles and 2 to 3,000 feet of elevation gain. Month 4, the last month before your hike, the mileage is going to be 12 to 14 miles and 3,000 plus feet of elevation gain. So one day each weekend you'll complete the mileage and the elevation target. This is going to help make sure you're ready to hit the trail when your hike arrives. I did include a PDF document that you can download. It's got all these mileages and elevation listed for you. You've got that as a nice handy resource. One of the other things I mentioned in video 1 was highlighting some ways you can maximize your training time. One of the best ways I've found is the workout at work. So for this one, you're going to make some time throughout your day to do a series of squats every hour. The idea is 12 squats every hour, so for an 8-hour shift you're at 96. Do another dozen at lunch and you're over 100 for the day. You're going to build some strength, you're going to get a little bit of endurance, and you're going to start to improve your base level of fitness, which is going to help prevent you from getting some common injuries. 12 squats isn't enough to get you sweaty and red-faced, which is going to make your coworkers question what you're doing. But it's going to be enough to help you start to build a better fitness base. The second thing I'm going to recommend is the track lunge program that I put together. I know a lot of hikers aren't really excited about lunges like I am, but this was easily one of my biggest secrets in preparing for the Pacific Crest Trail in 2018. When we started our hike, we didn't have any physical issues adapting to hiking every day. Part of that is the hiking mileage program that I laid out for you earlier, and the second piece was the lunges. Lunges help to build strength, endurance, and give you a good cardiovascular workout. They're the single best exercise that I have found for helping make sure I'm fully prepared for hiking, no matter what day or what time of year. Lastly, walk everywhere and walk often. Park far away from work, so you've got to walk a little bit further. If you have to run some errands, park far away from the store. Find a set of stairs. Take a walk at lunch, after dinner. You've really got to spend some time on your feet getting some miles in. Weather shouldn't be a concern here. You've got the gear for it because you're getting ready to head out into nature. This will be a great time to test gear and get some fitness in at the same time. One of the most common objections I hear from hikers is whether or not they need to train for a hike. Every year you'll hear of a lucky few hikers that are able to complete a long distance hike with no training beforehand. And these are the lucky, exceptional few that are able to do it. Their voices tend to be loud because they're really proud of the fact that they've done this great achievement with very little time beforehand. Unfortunately, this sets up a false narrative. It helps other people to believe that they can also complete a long distance hike with no injury and have no problems because someone else did it. The reality is the survey results just don't back up these hikers that say training is not necessary. HalfwayAnywhere.com and thetrek.com do some pretty extensive surveys each year, and the number one reason hikers have to end their hike each year is because of injuries. One of the reasons not training for a hike is a bad idea is because it doesn't allow your body any time to physically adapt to the stress of hiking while you're hiking. Meaning, your chance of an overuse injury is far greater if you start a hike with no training than if you had spent months beforehand preparing. Training is the number one thing that you can do that will actively help change the outcome of your hike. If the majority of hikers are leaving due to injury and they're not training or not training enough, the single best thing to do to help prepare is to spend some time training. It's going to be your mental attitude and it's going to be your physical training. Those two pieces go together, the physical training and the mental piece. If you spent a couple of months preparing yourself physically, mentally you're going to be much stronger when you start your hike. You'll know you've put in the time and the effort to succeed. If you were to start your hike without training, you don't have any of that confidence. You don't have any of that insight that says, man, I put in the time and I'm ready to go. Instead, it's this big question mark. The worst that can happen is that you have to end your hike early. This dream adventure, this thing you've been looking at for months or years because of an injury that could have been prevented with some training beforehand. This is why I created Trailside Fitness. I don't want anyone to feel like they've got to end their hike because of an injury that was avoidable. I really want everyone that starts their hike to finish their hike physically fit and mentally strong. Training is the one thing that you can actively do beforehand that will positively affect your outcome. And I want to make sure you've got the resources you need to make sure your hike goes as planned and you get the adventure that you're looking for. Another common thought about hiking is that you can just train while you're on the trail. What's the point of training if when you put your pack on and start hiking, the trail will just do the training for you? The problem here again is that your body hasn't had the time to physically adapt to the stress of hiking and wearing a pack every day. That means your risk of overuse injuries are far greater and your chances of ending your hike are much greater. It really does pay off to spend some time training beforehand to make sure that you can avoid a lot of these pitfalls and be ready for your trip. The truth is your body needs time to adapt to hiking, just like it needs time to adapt to a training program. That's why we start training programs months before the hike begins. It gets all the muscles as efficient as possible. It prepares the tendons, ligaments, and muscles for more of this activity that's going to come when you start hiking every day. This prep work lays the foundation for a much more successful hike. Regardless of training, we can't guarantee that injuries won't happen. But you can greatly reduce your risk of injuries with the training you do beforehand. So I've got one more video coming your way, and I'm going to answer a couple more questions in that video. One question I also get a lot from hikers is how long do I need to be training before my hike to make sure I'm as physically fit as possible before the start date. I'm also going to look at how we can manage common aches and pains on the trail and some ways you can help reduce the injury risk before you leave for your hike. Finally, thank you again. You guys have sent in some fantastic questions and comments. I'm really excited to hear and start this dialogue with you guys about training and injury prevention. Feel free to leave a comment on my Facebook feed, send me an email, or add me to your story on Instagram if you've been training for a hike to let me know how your training is going, or if you have any other questions you'd like me to address. Happy trails.